Welcome, everyone. Today we embark on a journey to explore the landscape of environmental justice in Massachusetts. Let's delve into the challenges, technical gaps, solutions, key stakeholders, and necessary resources in our quest for a more equitable and sustainable future. In Massachusetts, environmental justice is a pressing issue characterized by disparities in environmental burdens faced by marginalized communities. Individuals of color and lower income populations bear the brunt of pollution and environmental degradation, highlighting the urgent need for intervention and redress. Today, we will delve into the compelling work of the Environmental League of Massachusetts, otherwise known as ELM, and how it aligns with broader efforts to address environmental injustices exacerbated by race, gender, and class disparities. Their prioritization of equity, inclusion, and environmental justice showcases their recognition of the impact of bias, racism, classism, and privilege in determining power dynamics. Let's begin by understanding the mission of ELM. ELM is an organization steadfast in its commitment to formulating leading policies for conservation and tackling climate change. Their focus extends to transitioning to clean energy, elevating burdens on environmental justice communities disproportionately affected by pollution, and fostering an inclusive workforce within the clean energy sector. ELM's assertion that we must design a policy that repairs past harms and reduces burdens in environmental justice communities that have been most impacted by pollution and climate change presents a clear mandate for change. However, the path to these admirable goals is fraught with challenges, primarily rooted in systemic inequalities. The nonprofit sector, including organizations like ELM, often reflects societal disparities. Women constitute 75% of the nonprofit workforce, but hold a significantly smaller percentage of leadership positions. Moreover, a stark racial and ethnic diversity gap exists among nonprofit leaders, with around 87% of nonprofit CEOs identified as white. This lack of diversity not only influences an organization's internal dynamics, but also its outreach and impact on diverse communities it aims to serve. The problem: environmental justice. In Massachusetts, environmental hazards disproportionately affect communities of color and lower socioeconomic status. ELM may encounter several obstacles in implementing the strategies and actions outlined to promote racial justice and equitable outcomes. One key challenge is the enriched nature of systemic inequalities, which may resist change despite dedicated efforts. The lack of diversity in leadership positions within nonprofits and environmental organizations, as well as historical disparities in access to resources and decision-making power, can hamper efforts to prioritize equity and justice. Another obstacle is that limited resources available for initiatives targeting marginalized communities. Despite the importance of equitable resource allocation, there may be constraints on funding and support for environmental justice programs, hindering their effectiveness in addressing the needs of underserved communities adequately. Moreover, the need to navigate complex regulatory frameworks and bureaucratic processes in policy development and advocacy efforts may present barriers to effectively promote racial justice and equitable outcomes. Overcoming these hurdles may require dedicated efforts to build partnerships, increase awareness, and advocate for policy change that prioritize environmental justice and inclusivity. Furthermore, cultural competency training and the need for ongoing education and dialogue to build understanding and trust between organizations like ELM and marginalized communities could be a significant challenge. Ensuring that initiatives are tailored to meet the specific needs and priorities of diverse community members may require additional resources and a sustained commitment to building meaningful relationships. While the strategies outlined by ELM are critical for advancing racial justice and equitable outcomes, navigating these obstacles will necessitate perseverance, collaboration, and a firm commitment to addressing systemic barriers to achieve lasting change in environmental justice efforts. Additionally, resistance or lack of engagement from certain stakeholders, including government bodies, policymakers, and even within the communities themselves, could pose challenges to inclusive decision-making processes and the successful implementation of community-driven initiatives. The technical gap. Historical policies and systemic inequalities have ensured that race and class are significant determinants of a community's exposure to environmental risks. Addressing these linear distribution patterns of exposure requires targeted policies and strategies that prioritize equity and justice. To effectively address these disparities, ELM can adopt several strategic approaches. First, prioritizing racial justice and equitable results to ensure investments and benefits are designed to deliver equitable outcomes. Second, ensuring fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all communities, irrespective of their racial, financial, or historical background, in environmental decision-making processes. Third, engagement tailored to the unique needs of marginalized communities to understand their specific challenges better. Fourth, promoting inclusion and diversity in approaches to engagement. Finally, ensuring justice and access to human rights institutions for marginalized communities. For instance, the Roxbury neighborhood in Boston, Massachusetts serves as a stark reminder of the need for inclusivity in environmental decision-making processes. The area, primarily inhabited by Black and Hispanic communities, has been exposed to disproportionate levels of diesel exhaust, impacting residents' health significantly. Efforts like youth-led marches for clean air in Roxbury underscore the importance of involving affected communities in environmental justice initiatives. How to fill the gap. To translate these strategies into action, ELM and similar organizations can undertake a series of specific actions. By implementing community-based participatory research to ensure community needs and priorities guide decision-making. It can create policy task forces comprising community members, environmental experts, and policymakers to facilitate diverse perspectives in policy development. It can also provide cultural competency training to increase sensitivity to the needs of marginalized communities. We can also launch environmental education and outreach programs to empower communities, and we can ensure equitable resource allocation to support environmental justice initiatives in under-resourced communities. To address the constraints on funding and support for environmental justice programs, ELM can implement the following strategies. Targeting stakeholder collaboration, which is collaborating with key stakeholders, including community organizations, advocacy groups, and governmental agencies to pool resources, share expertise, and leverage networks for increased access to funding opportunities. Strategic citizen involvement is engaging citizens in the planning and implementation of environmental justice projects to enhance community ownership, foster local empowerment, and demonstrate the direct impact of initiatives on the community. By utilization of environmental justice small grants programs, we can apply for small grant programs that specifically support environmental justice initiatives, such as the Environmental Justice Small Grants Program by the U.S. EPA. These programs can provide essential funding for community-based projects addressing environmental and public health issues. By outsourcing expertise, we can consider outsourcing certain expertise or services to reduce operational costs and access specialized skills required for project implementation. This can help optimize resources and focus efforts on core program objectives. By leveraging innovative funding sources, it will help explore innovative funding opportunities like the Environmental and Climate Justice Program or EPA grants and funding opportunities to access additional financial assistance and technical support for environmental justice activities. By incorporating these strategies into operational framework, ELM can navigate funding challenges more effectively, enhance community engagement, and advance in environmental justice initiatives toward achieving tangible and sustainable outcomes. Why is ELM right to help aid environmental justice? ELM is again the Environmental League of Massachusetts, which is a nonprofit organization in Massachusetts. The Environmental League of Massachusetts is actively engaged in advocating for environmental justice through various initiatives. To effectively address environmental justice issues, ELM may require resources such as increased funding to support their advocacy efforts, expansion of partnership with other organizations working in the same field, access to data and research to support their policy recommendations, and the support of policymakers to implement the proposed reforms. ELM is already focused on catalyzing the clean energy transition, promoting sustainable transportation, greening buildings, financing innovation and infrastructure, reducing waste, and holding decision makers accountable for the effective implementation of climate laws. Therefore, while ELM may not necessarily need to develop new services within the community, it is essential for them to continue their current efforts and partnerships to address environmental justice issues effectively. Given the breadth of initiatives that ELM is currently undertaking to address environmental justice issues, such as advocating for equitable growth in the clean energy industry, reforming energy facilities, siting processes, expanding energy efficiency programs, and supporting affordable and electrified public transit in environmental justice communities. It appears that ELM is already dedicated to addressing environmental justice issues without the necessity of creating a new unit specifically donated to this cause. Their existing efforts demonstrate a comprehensive approach to tackling environmental justice issues without the need for a separate unit. The ask. In conclusion, the Environmental League of Massachusetts emerges as a beacon for systemic change, driven by a commitment to address the intersections of environmental justice, race, gender, and class. By adopting inclusive and equitable strategies, ELM can enhance its impact, paving the way toward a sustainable and just future for all communities in Massachusetts. Let's embrace this challenge collectively, steering our efforts toward creating a world where environmental justice prevails, untainted by societal disparities. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to any questions or discussions on how we can further this case together. Overall, the call to action for ELM and similar organizations is to prioritize inclusivity, diversity, and justice in their initiatives resonates well with the principles of environmental advocacy and social equity. By championing these values and strategies, ELM can indeed lead the way to creating a more sustainable and equitable future for all communities in Massachusetts. Thank you for staying tuned to learn more about systemic issues regarding environmental justice. On the left-hand side, you will see a video, and this is the ELM's mission statement.
We have a vision of a world where government fully recognizes the challenges we face and moves swiftly and effectively to address them, securing the health and well-being of the environment and future generations. Since 1898, our team has worked to shape state-level policy to improve Massachusetts. My name is Elizabeth Turnbull Henry. I'm the president of the Environmental League of Massachusetts. Unless there are significant changes in public policy, we're not going to be able to have a livable planet. At the Environmental League of Massachusetts, we advocate for policy that meets the scale and urgency of our environmental challenges. We're focused on combating climate change, scaling up clean energy, fighting for environmental justice, racial justice, and public health, and decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. ELM is a values-driven place. We think systemically and plan for the future. We're driven by the potential of our work to impact future generations, and we see the connections between all things, between people and planet, policy and social justice, environmental and economic health. We think critically about intersectionality and the complexities of cause and effect. We're strategic and ambitious. We're motivated by the enormity of the challenges we face and by Massachusetts' potential to lead the world. We're science-based, data-driven, and results-oriented, and we choose priorities based on their impact on the Commonwealth and their potential to be adapted and scaled. Donors, board members, supporters, and staff are drawn to ELM because they believe in our mission. They appreciate that we're optimistic, strategic, and ambitious, and they're inspired by the track record of our policy successes. To be net zero by 2050, we need to fundamentally transform our economy and our infrastructure. At ELM, we bring the solutions to those with the power to effect change.
Lastly, this is all of the references that I used to conduct this project, and I hope that everybody enjoyed. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you and have a great day.